Hi, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. It's Thursday, May 16th, 2019.
The Alabama Senate actually just approved a measure that essentially outlaws almost all abortions in the state. The way they did this, the legislation bans abortion at every stage of pregnancy and criminalizes the procedure for doctors who could be charged with felonies and face up to 99 years in prison. Now, it includes an exception for cases when the mother's life is at risk, but not for cases of rape or incest. And the amendment to add rape and incest exceptions to this failed 11-22. And I want you to take a look at something, because New York journalist Dan Lavoie actually broke down the roll call and posted this picture of the 22 senators who voted against the exception. Take a look at that. We all have something in common, a couple things in common.
They're all wearing ties?
They're all wearing ties.
Red ties.
Yeah, none of them are women, just so we're clear. But just so you know, every woman and every person of color in the Alabama Senate, plus 4 white male Republicans, actually voted for adding the rape and incest exception. Those 22 voted against. Talking about rape and incest and how important it was to a lot of people in the state and a lot of the senators who voted to have that exception in this measure, I just want to bring up something. Alabama State Senator Clyde Chambliss, a Republican, vowed that the bill would pass and reportedly told constituents at a town hall last week that the bill is a direct plan to challenge Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court, urging the crowd there.
Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court, which, by the way, isn't even guaranteed. I'm not sure if they know this, they're legislators, but the Supreme Court doesn't have to hear just because you said, hey, here I am.
Right.
Because, you know, and what about all these folks that have a problem with anything that happens in our society? Should we just say, hey, Supreme Court, you should hear me because I said so?
Right.
No, so if you cobble enough people with imaginary, stupid legislation together, thinking you can or hear it, it doesn't guarantee you that. So what it ends up doing is just punishing people in these states, but specifically in these.
Okay, so this is identity politics. I mean, this is liberal identity versus conservative identity. And my issue with this is liberals are wrong. Liberals are wrong. And they shouldn't be arguing based on just identity. They should be arguing based on the facts. So what are the facts here? What is the main fact? Okay, we'll start with the first one. And that is, when is killing a fetus a crime, right? So when should you not be allowed to do it? No, wait. Let's take this first. Here's the main point. The main point is we don't let individuals or groups of individuals, and women are a group of American citizens as well, we don't let them make the laws. Everybody in America has to vote for their senators and congressmen and president and try and get whoever they can on the Supreme Court to get the laws the way they want them, right? So, I mean, if you want a law saying, you know, we can have a purge night where everybody kills each other for free, legal, then you have to get everybody in the United States to agree and push it through. Of course, that's just a ridiculous example to make a point, right? So, women and their doctors, they say, oh, well, you're not going to let, you know, a bunch of old men tell women and their doctors to make the decision. Well, Bernie, I love you, and I guarantee you you will be president, but you're wrong. You're wrong. That's exactly who Congress, the president, the Senate, the House, the houses of government. When, of course, we do have one problem, and that's that they are not truly represented by the people. But pretending like they were for a few seconds, yes, they should make the laws, not. So a doctor and a woman getting together on whether or not she should have an abortion. I mean, first of all, why should the doctor have anything to say about it anyway? If we gave them permission to say on it, it would be the woman. So, okay, so you can't do that. You can't do that. Right there, you know, that's point number one. You cannot do that. You cannot give women and doctors the right to have the law in their own hands. Okay, there has to be rules. I mean, there's men involved too. You know, there's a father somewhere to that baby. You know, and they don't even talk about him having a say. And I think that's horrible. I think that's a horrid thing. Just because he doesn't have to carry the baby, he has no rights. And it's always been that way. And women talk about having no rights or not being able to, you know, achieve their rights in reality on the ground. Well, what about men? Men have a lot of areas where they have no rights. Okay, so anyway, so say that's true. Okay, so then you give you make the rules through government. Now, what should the rule be, right? Well, I'm just going to tell you because I'm pretty sure, I'm not even pretty sure, I'm very sure I know what the rules should be. The rules should be that you cannot have an abortion after the fetus reaches some point. Now, I'm going to say that that point is self-awareness. So, I'm not going to talk about heartbeats. That's just pumping blood around. That's not anything. But once that kid inside there is, you know, physically aware. So scientists and doctors have to get together and determine that. And they have to put a date on it. You know, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks. Now, as far as 6 weeks, because of fetal heartbeat, that's... what was I going to say here? There was something really important. Well, I'm sure I'll come back around to it. So you can't. So you have to determine that through science. So we have to determine through science when when a fetus becomes a baby. I'll say that a fetus is not a person. A baby is. So we'll work that. We'll work on that. Okay. So a baby. I say a baby is a baby. I say a fetus becomes a baby when it becomes self-aware. So if it's aware that it's in the womb or aware that it's alive, so that's doctors and scientists are going to get together and they're going to decide when the brain develops to a point where the fetus becomes scientifically self-aware. Okay, and I say that's when you can't, because before that you're not removing an individual from reality. You know what I mean? I mean, once they sense they're alive, then I say it's unfair. I'm thinking in terms of me. I mean, if I were suddenly aware of the fact that I was in the womb and then all of a sudden I'm fucking sucked out and killed, that would be uncool, man. I mean, it really would. Now, as far as incest and rape and all that, it doesn't matter. The right wing has this right. If the kid is a kid, if the fetus becomes a baby, it doesn't matter what kind of horrible instances happen to get him there. You know, a woman just has, and the argument that, I mean, you can always put it up for abortion. It seems to me like women are trying to just, you know, make themselves feel better. Well, life isn't always like that. We don't always get to make ourselves feel better by doing bad things. And in this case, it's got enough attention that people are going to regulate it, or going to make laws, and they're going to say, you know, look, you know, if you really don't want to ever see the kid again, we're not going to allow you to just get out of the pregnancy and get out of having the baby. Sorry. That would be murder, and we're not going to participate in that. And some people, of course, are really hell-bent on not allowing it, because they, you know, they'll sit around and allow us to drop bombs on children in Yemen, but they won't, you know, living children, but they won't stand for murdering a child inside a American woman's baby's stomach. Okay. All right, and yeah, I get that. I agree with that. But stop bombing children in Yemen too. Okay. Anyway, so there's nothing there, right? And I think that was the point I lost track of earlier. I think that's it. I mean, I think that's the whole abortion thing. I don't know why I can't watch a show and see people break it down like that. I don't know if y'all are just incapable of the logic and the reason. I think it's pretty... Now, I mean, I'm flexible on when a kid becomes self-aware, when a fetus becomes self-aware and then becomes a human being, or a baby, whatever. I'm flexible on that. I don't pretend to be a scientist, even though I am very good at, math and science and all that kind of stuff. But I don't pretend to... I don't want that. I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to say, exactly when it happens. But, the best scientists, get them on it. Let them figure it out. And then women, you're just going to have to live with it. We're not going to allow you to murder babies in your womb just because they're in your womb. And yes, we're really sorry, If we could figure out a way to take them out and finish their growing outside of you and just let you forget about them. But it seems to me like, in a way, women don't want, like if they were victims of rape, they don't want some baby out there. They want to get rid of it. They want to kill it. And they want to say it's okay to kill it. The baby's innocent. Find the father and fucking put him on a rape machine. Just let them rape him all day. I'm all for all kinds of different kinds of punishment. Only when it's absolutely sure that the person is guilty. So like you have 20 people saw something or whatever, you have real proof. Because I'll tell you, about a high percentage of the people sitting in jail are innocent for a couple of different reasons, and I'll get into that in another segment sometime, and it'll cover how they threw me in jail, even though I was innocent of what they convicted me of. They just didn't like what I had to say, and whether they don't like what you say or the color of your skin or whatever, they're doing this constantly. And I'll mention a statistic I heard the other day. I think they said 60,000 people a day are thrown in jail in the United States. Anyway, I sat down and figured it out, and I think it was... Okay, so they charge about $27. They charge the inmates when they put them in jails. And probably when they move them from one place to another. They've got this scheme, and they hold that against you. They hold it as you got to pay it off. And inmates end up owing all kinds of money when they're in jail if they don't have any money to pay. But what I figured out was, I think I figured out they're making about $500 billion a year. It was either 500 million or 500 billion. Anyway, it was a lot. Because it was based on how many people are arrested. And, once you're arrested, well, it would have to be based on once you're processed. Because what they're charging you for is processing. But they must make an enormous amount off of processing them. Now, having gone to jail, I know that most of the people in jail figure out ways to not pay. I mean, there were people in my cell who said they owed over $500, and they were still getting stuff you had to pay money for. They were just getting other people to let them use their accounts. It's crazy. I mean, the whole jail thing is crazy. And I'm going to cover that. I really am, because it's a fascinating subject. I'll tell you why I'm going to cover it. Is because for a lot of reasons, but one thing is when I was in jail, I found out that, as long as it was just left alone and not tinkered with, jail is actually a perfect experience. There's nothing to fight about. You all get the exact same things. Now, if if the opportunity is given through bad management or through the introduction of capitalism into the system, then all of a sudden there's all kinds of hell breaks loose. You know, so you have pizza night where people pay $15 for a $5 Little Caesars pizza or whatever, and you have all these things you can buy for exorbitant prices. The jails are making all kinds of money off of it, and people get bags of chips and ramen noodles. They pay over $1 a piece for a bag of ramen noodles, you know, 10-cent bag of ramen noodles. All that kind of crap, right? So you introduce that into the system, and then all of a sudden people are, even though they're not technically allowed to, and they're not allowed to even save this stuff, if they come in and they find it in your bunkie box, what it's called, little box under your bunk, they'll confiscate it. But what they do is they keep them and they trade them. So everybody's trading coffee and Coca-Colas, Pepsis, whatever, you know, all this capitalist shit that's brought into the system. Without that in there, without any, there's other capitalist things brought in. Without that, I mean, if you're just in there and you just get your 3 meals a day and you get your certain things, and the only thing you have to buy, which is really ridiculous, is, I mean, for people who don't have any money, they end up going in debt buying deodorant and toothpaste. Those are the two things you have to buy. I mean, you're forced to buy, unless you want to try and survive without it, and people are going to hate you because you're going to smell all the time. Anyway, so, and that's a real issue, believe it or not. You know, and underwear, people have to pay for underwear, things like that. So the capitalist system is brought into it, and all of a sudden, I mean, without it, people go nuts too, because you can only get certain things, like I was saying, toothpaste, but other things too, like now they force you to buy underwear, but if you were there for any period of time, you'd need to buy some more. Okay, so anyway, so once you get that capitalist ingredient poured into the mix, you get all kinds of people fighting. I mean, I must have seen about, I saw at least 20 or 30, just in 2 months that I was in there, 20 or 30 people threaten other people because they said, well, you owe me a Coke and you owe me 3 ramen noodles. I don't remember all of them, but they were fighting. There were fights over these things. There were threats, you know, I'm going to get you, and all that kind of shit. And it was crazy. I mean, you're talking about a 15-cent, you know, or $1 item or something that they sell for $3. I mean, that's why they're doing it, is to make money. The people the contractors, you know, even if it's a state or city or whatever, jail or prison, the contractors are making all the money. So anyway, I'll do a segment on that sometime. This is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. I hope you paid attention, man, because I think what I just told you about abortion, I think it's obvious, and I think if you think about it and listen to what I said about abortion, I think you'll agree with me.